Question 1. Compliance review shows that the sales team is consistently exceeding targets by leveraging customer data collected during initial product inquiries for unsolicited marketing campaigns without explicit consent. The team argues that since customers provided their contact information, they implicitly agreed to be contacted for promotional purposes. Which of the following approaches best aligns with regulatory requirements and ethical best practices for handling customer data in marketing? Option A. Implement a clear and prominent opt-in consent mechanism for all marketing communications, ensuring customers are fully informed about how their data will be used before they agree. Option B. Develop a system where customers can opt out of marketing communications, but proceed with sending marketing materials by default. Option C. Continue the current practice of assuming consent based on initial contact, as the sales team's success demonstrates the effectiveness of this approach. Option D. Rely on the argument that data was obtained through legitimate business channels, and therefore no explicit consent is required for marketing. The correct answer is A. Implement a clear and prominent opt-in consent mechanism for all marketing communications, ensuring customers are fully informed about how their data will be used before they agree. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between achieving business objectives and upholding ethical standards, particularly concerning data privacy and customer trust. The pressure to meet sales targets can lead to shortcuts that compromise regulatory compliance and customer rights. Careful judgment is required to balance commercial imperatives with legal and ethical obligations. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes obtaining explicit, informed consent before collecting and processing customer data for marketing purposes. This aligns with best professional practice and regulatory requirements, such as those under the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, if the exam jurisdiction is the EU or similar data protection laws. Obtaining consent ensures that individuals are aware of how their data will be used and have the freedom to agree or refuse, thereby respecting their autonomy and privacy rights. This proactive approach builds trust and mitigates the risk of regulatory penalties and reputational damage. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves assuming consent based on a pre-existing business relationship. This is a regulatory failure because it bypasses the requirement for explicit consent, which is often mandated for marketing activities. Ethically, it erodes customer trust by treating implied consent as equivalent to explicit consent, potentially leading to unwanted communications and a perception of data misuse. Another incorrect approach is to proceed with marketing without any consent mechanism, relying solely on the argument that the data was obtained through legitimate business channels. This is a significant regulatory failure, as many data protection laws require a lawful basis for processing personal data for marketing, and consent is a primary lawful basis. Ethically, it demonstrates a disregard for individual privacy rights and can lead to a breach of trust and potential legal repercussions. A third incorrect approach is to provide a vague or opt-out-only consent mechanism. This is a regulatory failure because it does not meet the standard of informed and unambiguous consent required by many data protection frameworks. Ethically, it is manipulative, as it places the burden on the individual to actively opt out rather than requiring them to actively opt in, which is a less transparent and less respectful practice. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the relevant regulatory landscape and ethical principles. When faced with a situation involving customer data and marketing, the first step is to identify the specific legal requirements for data processing and consent. This involves consulting internal compliance policies and external regulations. The next step is to assess the potential risks associated with different approaches, including regulatory fines, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. The chosen approach should always prioritize compliance and ethical conduct, even if it means a slower or less aggressive marketing strategy. Regular training and clear internal guidelines are crucial to ensure that all employees understand and adhere to these principles. Question 2. Operational review demonstrates that a new line of advanced optical lenses is ready for market launch, with preliminary internal testing showing promising results regarding enhanced visual acuity in low-light conditions. However, the full suite of independent, third-party clinical trials required to definitively substantiate these claims is still several months away from completion. The marketing department is eager to capitalize on the current market demand and proposes an immediate launch with marketing materials highlighting the revolutionary low-light performance, with a commitment to publish the full trial results once available. What is the most appropriate course of action for EssilorLuxottica in this situation? Option A. Launch the product with marketing materials that focus on the innovative technology behind the lenses without making specific claims about low-light performance until the trials are complete. Option B. Utilize competitor marketing materials that suggest similar performance benefits as a basis for the initial product claims, with a plan to validate these claims post-launch. Option C. Delay the market launch until all independent third-party clinical trials are completed and the results unequivocally substantiate the claims regarding enhanced low-light visual acuity. Option D. Proceed with the launch, marketing the lenses with the preliminary findings, and commit to publishing the full trial results at a later date. The correct answer is D. Proceed with the launch, marketing the lenses with the preliminary findings, and commit to publishing the full trial results at a later date. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge in balancing operational efficiency with regulatory compliance and ethical considerations in the context of product development and marketing. The pressure to launch new products quickly can lead to shortcuts that might compromise data integrity or mislead consumers, creating significant reputational and legal risks for EssilorLuxottica. The need for robust internal controls and a thorough understanding of the regulatory landscape is paramount. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach emphasizes a phased, data-driven validation process that aligns with regulatory expectations for product claims. This involves rigorous testing, clear documentation of results, and a staged marketing rollout based on confirmed efficacy. This aligns with principles of responsible product development and marketing, ensuring that claims are substantiated and consumers are not misled, which is a core tenet of consumer protection regulations and ethical business practices. It prioritizes long-term trust and compliance over short-term gains. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves launching the product with preliminary data and planning to gather further evidence post-launch. This is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It violates principles of truth in advertising and can lead to claims of deceptive practices. Regulators expect claims to be substantiated before they are made to the public. This approach also exposes the company to potential product recalls, lawsuits, and severe reputational damage. Another incorrect approach is to rely solely on anecdotal evidence or competitor claims without independent verification. This is professionally unsound and ethically questionable. Anecdotal evidence is not scientifically valid, and relying on competitor claims can lead to the propagation of unsubstantiated or even false information. This approach demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for the regulatory requirement to provide accurate and verifiable product information. It risks misleading consumers and violating advertising standards. A third incorrect approach is to interpret ambiguous regulatory guidance in the most favorable light to expedite the launch, without seeking clarification. This is a risky strategy that can lead to non-compliance. Regulatory bodies often have specific interpretations and expectations that may not be immediately apparent from the text alone. Failing to seek clarification or err on the side of caution when guidance is unclear can result in significant penalties and enforcement actions. It shows a lack of proactive risk management and a potential disregard for the spirit of the regulations. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based approach to product development and marketing. This involves proactively identifying potential regulatory and ethical pitfalls, conducting thorough due diligence, and seeking expert advice when necessary. A structured decision-making process should include 1. Understanding the specific regulatory requirements applicable to the product and market. 2. Evaluating the evidence supporting product claims against these requirements. 3. Assessing the risks associated with different launch strategies. 4. Implementing robust internal controls and validation processes. 5. Prioritizing consumer trust and long-term brand reputation over short-term expediency. Question 3. During the evaluation of a new customer relationship management (CRM) system designed to streamline client interactions and data management, what is the most appropriate initial step to ensure compliance with data privacy regulations and customer consent requirements? Option A. Focus primarily on the system's technical capabilities and efficiency gains, deferring any detailed review of data privacy implications until after the system is fully operational. Option B. Proceed with the system's technical implementation, assuming that existing customer consent forms are sufficient for the new data collection and processing activities. Option C. Implement the system and then conduct a post-implementation audit of data privacy practices to identify any potential issues. Option D. Conduct a thorough review of all applicable data protection laws and internal privacy policies, and consult with the company's data protection officer to assess the system's impact on data handling and consent mechanisms. The correct answer is D. Conduct a thorough review of all applicable data protection laws and internal privacy policies, and consult with the company's data protection officer to assess the system's impact on data handling and consent mechanisms. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge in implementing new operational procedures within a regulated industry, specifically concerning data privacy and customer consent. The professional challenge lies in balancing the efficiency gains of a new system with the stringent legal and ethical obligations to protect customer data and ensure informed consent. This requires a nuanced understanding of regulatory requirements and a proactive approach to compliance. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough understanding and adherence to the relevant regulatory framework. By conducting a comprehensive review of data protection laws and internal policies, and by seeking expert legal counsel, the company demonstrates a commitment to lawful and ethical data handling. Proactively engaging with the data protection officer ensures that the implementation aligns with all legal requirements and best practices for customer consent mechanisms. This approach minimizes the risk of regulatory breaches, reputational damage, and potential penalties. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the technical implementation without considering the legal implications of data handling is professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a disregard for data privacy regulations, which mandate specific procedures for collecting, processing, and storing personal data. Such an approach risks violating customer privacy rights and contravening laws designed to protect sensitive information. Another incorrect approach that bypasses the data protection officer and proceeds with implementation based on assumptions about consent is also professionally flawed. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to engage with the designated compliance authority. It ignores the critical role of the data protection officer in ensuring that all data processing activities are lawful and that appropriate consent mechanisms are in place, potentially leading to non-compliance and legal repercussions. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured risk assessment. This includes identifying all relevant legal and regulatory obligations, understanding the potential impact of proposed changes on customer data and rights, and consulting with legal and compliance experts. Prioritizing a proactive, informed, and compliant approach over expediency is crucial for maintaining trust and adhering to professional standards. Question 4. Stakeholder feedback indicates a strong desire to accelerate the introduction of new eyewear collections to capitalize on emerging fashion trends. A proposal has been made to streamline the material sourcing and testing phase for new frame components, suggesting reliance on supplier certifications and limited in-house verification to reduce lead times. What is the most appropriate approach to balance innovation speed with regulatory compliance and product integrity? Option A. Implement a robust, multi-stage testing protocol for all new materials, including independent laboratory verification of safety and performance characteristics, even if it slightly extends the development timeline. Option B. Prioritize the use of materials with readily available supplier certifications, assuming these adequately represent product safety and performance for the intended market. Option C. Focus on rapid prototyping and market testing, deferring comprehensive material safety and durability assessments until after the initial product launch. Option D. Expedite the material selection process by benchmarking against competitor product specifications and adopting similar materials without independent validation. The correct answer is A. Implement a robust, multi-stage testing protocol for all new materials, including independent laboratory verification of safety and performance characteristics, even if it slightly extends the development timeline. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need for product innovation with the long-term implications of regulatory compliance and ethical product development. The pressure to launch new eyewear designs quickly, driven by market trends and competitor activity, can create a temptation to bypass thorough due diligence. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the pursuit of innovation does not compromise the safety, efficacy, or ethical marketing of EssilorLuxottica's products, particularly in a highly regulated industry like eyewear, where product performance and consumer health are paramount. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a structured, evidence-based process for evaluating new materials and designs. This involves rigorous testing for material safety, durability, and optical performance, aligning with the principles of responsible product development and consumer protection. Adhering to established industry standards and regulatory guidelines, such as those pertaining to material biocompatibility and optical clarity, ensures that products are not only innovative but also safe and effective for end users. This proactive stance minimizes the risk of product recalls, reputational damage, and potential legal liabilities, fostering trust with consumers and regulatory bodies. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on speed to market without adequate material testing would fail to meet regulatory requirements for product safety and efficacy. This could lead to the introduction of products that pose health risks to consumers, such as allergic reactions from untested materials or visual impairment due to poor optical quality. Such a failure would violate ethical obligations to consumers and potentially contravene specific regulations governing medical devices or consumer goods, depending on the product classification. Another incorrect approach that relies on anecdotal evidence or competitor product analysis without independent verification would be professionally unsound. This bypasses the scientific rigor necessary to confirm product claims and ensure compliance. It risks misrepresenting product capabilities, leading to consumer dissatisfaction and potential regulatory scrutiny for misleading advertising. This approach neglects the fundamental ethical duty of transparency and accuracy in product information. A third incorrect approach that prioritizes cost reduction over material integrity would also be unacceptable. While cost-effectiveness is important, it should never come at the expense of safety or performance. Using substandard materials that compromise durability or safety would expose the company to significant risks, including product failures, customer complaints, and regulatory noncompliance. This demonstrates a failure to uphold the company's commitment to quality and consumer well-being. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a phased approach to product development. This includes initial concept validation, followed by rigorous material sourcing and testing, prototype development and evaluation, and finally, pre-market regulatory review and approval before launch. Professionals should always consult relevant industry standards and regulatory guidance documents, engage with legal and compliance teams early in the process, and maintain a clear audit trail of all testing and decision-making. Prioritizing a risk-based assessment at each stage ensures that potential issues are identified and addressed proactively, safeguarding both the company's reputation and consumer interests. Question 5. The audit findings indicate that a significant number of raw material suppliers have provided documentation that does not fully align with the company's established procurement policies regarding origin verification and ethical sourcing certifications. What is the most appropriate course of action to address these discrepancies? Option A. Prioritize immediate cost-saving opportunities with these suppliers, deferring a detailed review of their documentation until a later, less critical period. Option B. Rely on the historical relationship with these suppliers and assume their continued adherence to company policies, focusing only on new supplier onboarding for stricter compliance checks. Option C. Expedite the processing of outstanding purchase orders from these suppliers, assuming the discrepancies are minor administrative oversights that do not impact product quality or ethical standards. Option D. Initiate a comprehensive review of all supplier contracts and associated documentation to identify the extent of non-compliance and implement corrective actions, including potential renegotiation or termination of contracts with persistently non-compliant suppliers. The correct answer is D. Initiate a comprehensive review of all supplier contracts and associated documentation to identify the extent of non-compliance and implement corrective actions, including potential renegotiation or termination of contracts with persistently non-compliant suppliers. Explanation: the audit findings indicate a potential breakdown in the internal controls surrounding the procurement of raw materials for EssilorLuxottica's manufacturing processes. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the need for efficient operations and cost-effectiveness with the imperative to maintain robust compliance with EssilorLuxottica's internal policies and relevant industry regulations, which are likely to be stringent given the company's global presence and focus on quality. The pressure to meet production targets and manage supply chain disruptions can create an environment where shortcuts are tempting, but adherence to established procedures is paramount to prevent fraud, ensure product quality, and maintain ethical sourcing. The correct approach, which involves a thorough review of all supplier contracts against established procurement policies and a detailed investigation into any deviations, represents best professional practice. This aligns with principles of good corporate governance and risk management. Specifically, it upholds the ethical obligation to ensure that all business dealings are conducted with integrity and transparency, and it adheres to regulatory expectations for due diligence in supplier relationships. This proactive and systematic approach minimizes the risk of financial misstatement, reputational damage, and potential legal liabilities. An incorrect approach that involves overlooking minor discrepancies in supplier documentation to expedite the process would be professionally unacceptable. This failure would violate the ethical duty of care and diligence, potentially exposing the company to risks associated with unvetted suppliers, such as substandard materials, intellectual property infringement, or even involvement in unethical labor practices. Such an oversight could also contravene internal audit requirements and financial reporting standards that mandate accurate and complete record-keeping. Another incorrect approach, which is to assume that because a supplier has been used previously, their current compliance status does not require re-verification, is also professionally flawed. This demonstrates a lack of ongoing vigilance and a failure to adapt to potential changes in a supplier's operational or ethical standing. It neglects the principle of continuous improvement in internal controls and could lead to a recurrence of the identified audit findings or the emergence of new risks. Finally, an approach that focuses solely on the cost savings achieved by a particular supplier without adequately assessing the associated risks and compliance adherence is also professionally unsound. While cost efficiency is important, it should not come at the expense of integrity and compliance. This approach prioritizes short-term financial gains over long-term sustainability and ethical conduct, potentially leading to significant unforeseen costs and liabilities down the line. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured risk assessment framework. This includes identifying potential risks, evaluating their likelihood and impact, and implementing appropriate control measures. Professionals must prioritize adherence to established policies and ethical guidelines, even under pressure. When faced with audit findings, a thorough investigation, clear communication with relevant stakeholders, and a commitment to remediation are essential. This involves understanding the root cause of the issue, implementing corrective actions, and monitoring their effectiveness to prevent future occurrences. Question 6. Regulatory review indicates that EssilorLuxottica is considering the introduction of a new line of smart eyewear with integrated vision-enhancing features. To ensure market readiness and compliance, what is the most appropriate initial step to address potential regulatory hurdles related to product claims and consumer safety? Option A. Engage a third-party marketing firm to develop compelling advertising copy, with the understanding that regulatory compliance will be a secondary consideration to maximizing initial sales impact. Option B. Proceed with product launch and address any regulatory inquiries or concerns that arise post-market, focusing initial marketing efforts on highlighting the innovative technological aspects. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive internal audit of the product's design and manufacturing processes against all known optical device regulations, and initiate pre-market consultation with relevant regulatory authorities regarding the specific claims to be made. Option D. Rely on existing certifications for similar, non-smart eyewear components and assume these will cover the new product's integrated features, prioritizing rapid market entry. The correct answer is C. Conduct a comprehensive internal audit of the product's design and manufacturing processes against all known optical device regulations, and initiate pre-market consultation with relevant regulatory authorities regarding the specific claims to be made. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between a company's desire to innovate and expand its product offerings and the stringent regulatory requirements designed to protect consumers and ensure fair market practices. The implementation of a new product line, especially one involving advanced optical technology, necessitates a thorough understanding and adherence to the specific regulatory framework governing such products within the relevant jurisdiction. The challenge lies in balancing the speed of market entry with the imperative of compliance, ensuring that all aspects of the product, from design and manufacturing to marketing and sales, meet or exceed legal and ethical standards. The correct approach emphasizes proactive engagement with regulatory bodies and a comprehensive internal review process. This involves meticulously documenting compliance with all applicable regulations, including those related to product safety, efficacy, labeling, and advertising. By seeking pre-market approval where required and ensuring that all marketing materials are accurate and not misleading, the company demonstrates a commitment to consumer protection and ethical business conduct. This approach mitigates legal risks, builds consumer trust, and fosters a sustainable business model. An incorrect approach that prioritizes speed to market over regulatory diligence would be professionally unacceptable. For instance, launching a product without obtaining necessary certifications or approvals would violate regulatory mandates, potentially leading to product recalls, fines, and reputational damage. Similarly, making unsubstantiated claims in marketing materials, even if unintentional, constitutes a breach of advertising standards and consumer protection laws, eroding trust and potentially misleading consumers about the product's capabilities or benefits. Another failure would be to overlook or misinterpret specific technical standards for optical devices, which could compromise product performance and safety, leading to adverse consumer outcomes and regulatory sanctions. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured risk assessment framework. This begins with identifying all relevant regulatory requirements for the product and its intended market. Subsequently, a thorough gap analysis should be conducted to determine where current practices or product design fall short of these requirements. The next step involves developing and implementing corrective actions, prioritizing those that address the most significant risks. Continuous monitoring and review are crucial to ensure ongoing compliance and adapt to any changes in the regulatory landscape. This systematic approach ensures that innovation is pursued responsibly and ethically, safeguarding both the company's interests and consumer welfare. Question 7. The control framework reveals a potential weakness in the sales data processing system or a specific batch of transactions, due to an intermittent system glitch, bypassed certain automated validation checks before being recorded. While the volume of affected transactions is currently low, there is a risk of misstated revenue if these discrepancies are not identified and corrected. What is the most appropriate immediate action to address this control gap? Option A. Implement a daily reconciliation process between the system's output and a separate, independent data source to identify and correct any discrepancies arising from the bypassed validation checks. Option B. Temporarily disable the affected validation checks until the system glitch can be fully diagnosed and resolved by the IT department. Option C. Document the identified control weakness in the internal audit report and await further instructions from management on how to proceed. Option D. Increase the frequency of manual reviews of all sales transactions to catch any anomalies that might have slipped through the automated validation. The correct answer is A. Implement a daily reconciliation process between the system's output and a separate, independent data source to identify and correct any discrepancies arising from the bypassed validation checks. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the need for efficient data processing with the imperative to maintain data integrity and comply with EssilorLuxottica's internal control framework, which is implicitly aligned with relevant data protection and privacy regulations. The challenge lies in identifying potential control weaknesses that could lead to misstatements or unauthorized access without disrupting ongoing operations. Careful judgment is required to assess the risk and propose proportionate solutions. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the identified control weakness by implementing a compensating control that enhances data validation and segregation of duties. This aligns with the principles of robust internal control, aiming to prevent, detect, and correct errors or fraud. Specifically, it reinforces the integrity of financial data by ensuring that the system responsible for processing sales data also has mechanisms to flag discrepancies, and that access to modify these critical records is appropriately restricted. This proactive stance minimizes the risk of financial misstatement and enhances overall operational reliability, adhering to the spirit of regulatory expectations for sound financial reporting and data governance. An incorrect approach that relies solely on increased manual review without addressing the root cause of the data processing anomaly is professionally unacceptable. This fails to implement a sustainable control and places undue reliance on human oversight, which is prone to error and fatigue. It does not strengthen the system's inherent controls and could lead to the same issues recurring. Another incorrect approach that involves bypassing the validation checks to expedite processing is ethically and regulatorily unsound. This directly undermines the control framework and significantly increases the risk of inaccurate financial reporting. It prioritizes speed over accuracy and compliance, which is a clear violation of professional responsibility and likely contravenes data integrity requirements. A further incorrect approach that focuses on documenting the existing weakness without proposing a remediation plan is insufficient. While documentation is important, professional responsibility extends to identifying and recommending solutions to mitigate identified risks. Merely acknowledging a control gap does not fulfill the duty to ensure the effectiveness of the control environment. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic risk assessment. First, clearly identify the control weakness and its potential impact. Second, evaluate the inherent risks associated with the weakness, considering both the likelihood and magnitude of potential misstatements or breaches. Third, brainstorm potential control solutions, considering both preventative and detective controls, as well as automated and manual options. Fourth, assess the feasibility, cost-effectiveness, and impact of each proposed solution on operational efficiency. Finally, select and implement the most appropriate control that effectively mitigates the risk, while aligning with the organization's overall control objectives and regulatory obligations. Question 8. The monitoring system demonstrates that a sales associate, under pressure to meet monthly targets, is about to complete a sale of a high-end, feature-rich eyewear product to a customer who has explicitly stated they only require basic vision correction and are not interested in the advanced functionalities of the premium model. The associate is aware of this, but is proceeding with the sale, implying the customer might benefit from the extra features in the future. Option A. Suggest the customer purchase the premium product now and consider returning it later if they find they don't use the advanced features, as long as it's within the return window. Option B. Proceed with the sale, highlighting the potential future benefits of the advanced features and assuring the customer that they will eventually appreciate the investment. Option C. Downplay the customer's stated needs and emphasize the superior quality and status associated with the premium product, encouraging them to purchase it regardless. Option D. Politely decline the sale, explaining that the premium product may not be the best fit for their current needs and suggesting a more suitable basic model that meets their stated requirements. The correct answer is D. Politely decline the sale, explaining that the premium product may not be the best fit for their current needs and suggesting a more suitable basic model that meets their stated requirements. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the conflict between immediate financial gain and long-term ethical and regulatory compliance. The temptation to overlook a minor infraction for the sake of a quick sale is significant, especially in a performance-driven environment. However, prioritizing short-term sales over adherence to established ethical guidelines and potentially regulatory requirements can lead to severe consequences, including reputational damage, customer distrust, and disciplinary action. Careful judgment is required to balance business objectives with the imperative to act with integrity. The correct approach, which involves politely but firmly declining the sale and explaining the policy, represents best professional practice because it upholds the company's commitment to ethical conduct and customer well-being. This aligns with the principles of responsible business operations, ensuring that EssilorLuxottica's reputation for quality and integrity is maintained. It also prevents potential future issues that could arise from selling a product that does not meet the customer's stated needs or the company's quality standards. This proactive stance demonstrates a commitment to customer satisfaction beyond the immediate transaction. An incorrect approach of proceeding with the sale, despite the customer's admission of not needing the premium features, represents a failure to adhere to ethical sales practices. This could be interpreted as misrepresentation or even deceptive sales tactics, potentially violating consumer protection principles. Prioritizes revenue over customer benefit and honesty. Another incorrect approach of downplaying the customer's concern and pushing the sale anyway demonstrates a lack of empathy and a disregard for customer autonomy, undermining trust and potentially leading to dissatisfaction and complaints. This approach prioritizes sales targets over genuine customer needs. A third incorrect approach of suggesting the customer might grow into the features, while seemingly helpful, still involves selling a product that the customer explicitly states they do not currently require, which can be seen as a form of upselling based on future, uncertain needs rather than current, stated ones. This can lead to customer dissatisfaction if those future needs do not materialize. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a clear understanding of company policies and ethical guidelines. When faced with a conflict, the professional should first identify the core issue. Is the proposed action aligned with ethical principles and company standards? If there is doubt, the next step is to consult relevant policies or a supervisor. The decision should always prioritize integrity, customer well-being, and long-term business reputation over immediate, short-term gains. This involves active listening to customer concerns, honest communication about product suitability, and a willingness to walk away from a sale if it compromises ethical standards. Question 9. Implementation of a new marketing campaign for revolutionary eyewear technology requires sales representatives to highlight its benefits. A representative is aware of a minor, but not widely publicized, potential side effect that could affect a small percentage of users. The company's internal guidelines emphasize aggressive sales targets and positive product portrayal. How should the representative proceed? Option A. Focus on the scientifically proven benefits and technological advancements of the eyewear, while being prepared to honestly and clearly disclose the potential side effect if directly asked by a customer. Option B. Highlight the perceived shortcomings of competitor products without fully detailing the unique advantages of the company's own technology, aiming to create doubt in the customer's mind about alternatives. Option C. Exaggerate the speed and effectiveness of the technology's adaptation to vision, implying it eliminates all potential adjustment periods to create a stronger sales pitch. Option D. Emphasize the revolutionary nature of the technology and downplay any potential drawbacks to ensure sales targets are met, assuming the side effect is rare and unlikely to impact most customers. The correct answer is A. Focus on the scientifically proven benefits and technological advancements of the eyewear, while being prepared to honestly and clearly disclose the potential side effect if directly asked by a customer. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a company's desire to promote its products and the ethical obligation to provide unbiased information to consumers. The pressure to meet sales targets can create an environment where the line between persuasive marketing and misleading representation becomes blurred. Careful judgment is required to ensure that all communications are truthful, accurate, and do not exploit consumer vulnerabilities. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes transparency and consumer welfare, aligning with the principles of ethical marketing and responsible business conduct. Specifically, it adheres to the spirit of consumer protection laws, which generally prohibit deceptive advertising and require businesses to act with integrity. By focusing on factual product benefits and avoiding unsubstantiated claims, this approach builds trust and long-term customer relationships, which are more sustainable than short-term gains achieved through potentially misleading tactics. An incorrect approach that emphasizes aggressive sales tactics and downplays potential drawbacks fails to uphold professional integrity. Such an approach risks violating advertising standards that mandate truthfulness and prohibit misleading statements, can lead to consumer dissatisfaction, reputational damage, and potential legal repercussions for the company. Another incorrect approach that involves exaggerating product efficacy without scientific backing is ethically unsound and likely contravenes regulations against false advertising. This can mislead consumers into making purchasing decisions based on inaccurate information, potentially leading to harm or disappointment. A further incorrect approach that focuses solely on competitor weaknesses without highlighting the merits of the company's own products can be perceived as unprofessional and may not effectively communicate value to the consumer, potentially falling short of ethical marketing standards that encourage fair competition and honest representation. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with identifying the core ethical principles at play, such as honesty, fairness, and consumer welfare. They should then consider the relevant regulatory requirements and company policies. Next, they should evaluate the potential consequences of each course of action, both for the consumer and the company. Finally, they should choose the option that best aligns with ethical standards and legal obligations, even if it means foregoing immediate profit opportunities. Question 10. The evaluation methodology shows that a junior product development associate has discovered a minor, but potentially concerning, manufacturing anomaly in a new eyewear model during late-stage quality control. While the anomaly does not currently pose an immediate safety risk, it could, in rare circumstances, lead to a slight degradation of lens clarity over an extended period. The associate is aware that the product is scheduled for a major marketing launch next week, and the company has invested heavily in this campaign. The associate is considering how to proceed. Option A. Proceed with the launch as planned, assuming the anomaly is insignificant and unlikely to cause any noticeable issues for the vast majority of consumers, and address it only if complaints arise post-launch. Option B. Discreetly attempt to modify the quality control report to obscure the anomaly's details before submitting it, to avoid causing alarm and disrupting the launch. Option C. Share the information about the anomaly with a trusted colleague in the marketing department to gauge their opinion on how to best manage the situation without impacting the launch. Option D. Immediately report the anomaly and its potential implications to their direct supervisor and the quality assurance department, recommending a brief delay in the launch to investigate further and potentially implement a minor adjustment. The correct answer is D. Immediately report the anomaly and its potential implications to their direct supervisor and the quality assurance department, recommending a brief delay in the launch to investigate further and potentially implement a minor adjustment. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a company's desire for positive public perception and the ethical obligation to disclose potentially negative information. The pressure to maintain brand image can lead individuals to overlook or downplay critical findings, creating a dilemma between loyalty to the company and professional integrity. Careful judgment is required to navigate this conflict without compromising ethical standards or regulatory compliance. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes transparency and adherence to EssilorLuxottica's internal code of conduct and any applicable industry regulations regarding product safety and consumer information. By immediately escalating the issue to the appropriate internal channels, the professional demonstrates a commitment to ethical conduct, proactive problem-solving, and safeguarding consumer well-being. This aligns with principles of corporate social responsibility and the expectation that companies will act with integrity in all their dealings. An incorrect approach that involves downplaying the findings or delaying reporting for fear of negative publicity represents a significant ethical failure. This could lead to continued distribution of a product with a potential defect, risking consumer harm and subsequent legal or regulatory repercussions for the company. It also undermines trust within the organization and with external stakeholders. Another incorrect approach, such as leaking the information to the press without internal reporting, is a breach of confidentiality and professional duty, potentially causing undue panic and reputational damage without allowing the company a fair opportunity to address the issue internally. This bypasses established reporting structures and can lead to misinformation. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with identifying the ethical and regulatory implications of a situation. This involves consulting relevant company policies, codes of conduct, and any applicable laws or regulations. The next step is to assess the potential impact of different courses of action on all stakeholders, including consumers, the company, and colleagues. Prioritizing actions that uphold integrity, transparency, and legal compliance is crucial. When faced with a conflict, escalating the issue through appropriate channels, documenting all communications, and seeking guidance from supervisors or ethics officers are essential steps in responsible decision-making. Question 11. The assessment process reveals that candidate, while possessing strong foundational knowledge in a key area, lacks direct, hands-on experience with a specific advanced software tool mentioned in the job description. The candidate is aware of this gap, but is eager to secure the role. What is the most ethically sound and professionally appropriate way for the candidate to address this during the assessment? Option A. Claim to have used the software extensively in a previous, unrelated role, hoping the interviewer will not probe for specific details or examples. Option B. Exaggerate their familiarity with the software, implying a level of expertise they do not possess, in the hope of passing the assessment and learning on the job. Option C. State that the specific software is not relevant to their current skill set and decline to discuss it further, focusing only on areas where they have extensive experience. Option D. Honestly acknowledge the limited direct experience with the specific software. Highlight transferable skills and a strong willingness to learn and quickly become proficient, and express enthusiasm for the opportunity to develop expertise in that tool. The correct answer is D. Honestly acknowledge the limited direct experience with the specific software. Highlight transferable skills and a strong willingness to learn and quickly become proficient, and express enthusiasm for the opportunity to develop expertise in that tool. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a candidate's desire to impress and the ethical obligation to provide accurate and unembellished information during an assessment. The pressure to secure a position can lead individuals to misrepresent their skills or experiences, creating an ethical dilemma. Careful judgment is required to navigate this situation without compromising integrity. The correct approach, which involves acknowledging limitations and focusing on transferable skills and a willingness to learn, represents best professional practice. This aligns with the EssilorLuxottica hiring assessment test's likely emphasis on integrity, honesty, and a growth mindset. It demonstrates self-awareness and a commitment to ethical conduct, which are foundational to building trust and long-term professional relationships. This approach avoids any misrepresentation, thereby adhering to principles of honesty and transparency expected in professional settings. An incorrect approach would be to exaggerate or fabricate experience. This constitutes a direct breach of ethical conduct and potentially violates the spirit, if not the letter, of the assessment's integrity guidelines. Such misrepresentation undermines the validity of the assessment process and erodes trust between the candidate and the employer. It can lead to the candidate being placed in a role for which they are not adequately prepared, resulting in poor performance and potential harm to the company. Another incorrect approach would be to refuse to answer questions about specific technical skills, even if the candidate has some foundational knowledge. This can be perceived as evasiveness or a lack of confidence, which may be interpreted negatively by the assessors. While honesty is crucial, a complete refusal to engage with a topic where some understanding exists can be counterproductive and may not reflect the candidate's true potential for learning and development. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough self-assessment of one's skills and knowledge. When faced with a question about a specific skill, the candidate should honestly evaluate their proficiency. If the proficiency is limited but present, the best strategy is to articulate the extent of their knowledge, highlight any related transferable skills, and express a strong eagerness and capacity to learn and develop in that area. This balanced approach demonstrates both honesty and a proactive attitude towards professional growth. Question 12. The evaluation methodology shows that a new lens technology with advanced features is being introduced. During a customer consultation, a salesperson is asked about the specific technical advantages and potential limitations of this new technology compared to existing options. The salesperson is aware that while the technology offers significant improvements in certain areas, it also has some specific environmental sensitivities that could affect performance in particular conditions, and these limitations are not immediately obvious from the marketing materials. The salesperson is also under pressure to meet quarterly sales targets. Which of the following approaches best represents professional conduct in this situation? Option A. Avoid discussing the technical details altogether and focus on the aesthetic appeal and perceived prestige of the new lens technology. Option B. Downplay the environmental sensitivities of the new technology, suggesting they are minor and unlikely to affect most users, to avoid deterring the customer. Option C. Clearly and accurately communicate the technical specifications and limitations of the new lens technology, providing objective information to help the customer make an informed decision. Option D. Emphasize the revolutionary aspects of the new technology and highlight positive customer testimonials, while glossing over any potential technical drawbacks to ensure a sale. The correct answer is C. Clearly and accurately communicate the technical specifications and limitations of the new lens technology, providing objective information to help the customer make an informed decision. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a company's desire to promote its products and the ethical obligation to provide unbiased information to potential customers. The pressure to meet sales targets can create an environment where the line between persuasive marketing and misleading representation becomes blurred. Careful judgment is required to navigate this situation, ensuring that all communications are truthful, accurate, and do not exploit customer vulnerabilities or lack of technical knowledge. The correct approach, which involves clearly and accurately communicating the technical specifications and limitations of the new lens technology, represents best professional practice. This aligns with the ethical principles of honesty and transparency, which are foundational in professional conduct. Specifically, it upholds the implicit trust customers place in professionals to provide them with accurate information to make informed purchasing decisions. This approach also avoids any potential violations of consumer protection laws that mandate truthful advertising and prohibit deceptive practices. By focusing on factual information, the professional demonstrates integrity and prioritizes the customer's best interests, fostering long-term trust and loyalty. An incorrect approach that involves downplaying the potential drawbacks or exaggerating the benefits of the new lens technology would constitute a failure in professional ethics and potentially violate regulatory guidelines. Such an approach is deceptive, as it misrepresents the product's capabilities and limitations. This can lead to customer dissatisfaction, complaints, and damage to the company's reputation. Furthermore, it could be construed as a violation of advertising standards that require claims to be substantiated and not misleading. Another incorrect approach, which is to avoid discussing the technical aspects altogether and focus solely on anecdotal testimonials, is also professionally unacceptable. While testimonials can be persuasive, they are subjective and do not provide the objective, factual information necessary for a customer to make a truly informed decision, especially concerning a technical product like eyewear. This approach circumvents the professional's duty to educate the customer and can be seen as an attempt to obscure potential issues or limitations through emotional appeals rather than factual disclosure. This failure to provide comprehensive information can lead to a breach of professional duty and customer trust. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a commitment to honesty and transparency as the primary guiding principles. Professionals should always prioritize providing accurate and complete information, even if it means potentially losing a sale in the short term. This involves understanding the product thoroughly, including its limitations, and being able to communicate these aspects clearly to the customer. A framework for decision-making would include 1. Identify the core ethical obligation, e.g., truthfulness, customer welfare. 2. Assess the potential impact of different communication strategies on the customer and the company's reputation. 3. Consult relevant company policies and professional codes of conduct. 4. Choose the approach that best upholds ethical standards and regulatory compliance, even if it requires more effort or is less immediately profitable. Question 13. Investigation of a marketing team's strategy for a new eyewear product reveals a practice of curating customer testimonials to exclusively feature overwhelmingly positive feedback, while deliberately downplaying or omitting any negative reviews that highlight durability concerns. The team's rationale is that this approach maximizes the product's perceived value and helps achieve aggressive sales targets. What is the most ethically sound and professionally responsible course of action for a marketing professional to take in this situation? Option A. Escalate the issue to senior management, demanding an immediate halt to all marketing activities until a comprehensive review of all customer feedback and a revised, ethically compliant strategy is developed. Option B. Continue with the current strategy of highlighting only positive testimonials, arguing that marketing is inherently persuasive and that negative feedback is subjective. Option C. Advocate for a balanced presentation of customer feedback, including both positive and negative reviews, to provide a more accurate and transparent representation of the product's performance. Option D. Suggest focusing solely on the product's aesthetic features and innovative technology, completely disregarding all customer feedback, both positive and negative, in marketing materials. Correct answer is C. Advocate for a balanced presentation of customer feedback, including both positive and negative reviews, to provide a more accurate and transparent representation of the product's performance. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a company's desire to promote its products and the ethical obligation to provide objective information to consumers, especially when that information might be incomplete or misleading. The pressure to meet sales targets can create an environment where ethical considerations are sidelined. Careful judgment is required to navigate the line between persuasive marketing and deceptive practices. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes transparency and consumer welfare, aligning with the core principles of ethical conduct in business and marketing. Specifically, it upholds the spirit of regulations that aim to prevent misleading advertising and ensure consumers can make informed purchasing decisions. This approach fosters trust and long-term customer relationships, which are more sustainable than short-term gains from potentially deceptive tactics. An incorrect approach that involves selectively highlighting positive reviews while omitting negative ones is ethically flawed because it misrepresents the overall customer experience. This can be considered a form of deceptive practice, as it creates an artificially positive perception of the product. It fails to meet the ethical standard of honesty and can lead to consumer disappointment and potential regulatory scrutiny under advertising standards that prohibit misleading representations. Another incorrect approach, which is to dismiss the feedback as subjective and therefore irrelevant to marketing, is problematic because it disregards valuable consumer insights. While individual opinions are subjective, aggregated feedback can reveal genuine product issues or areas for improvement. Ignoring this feedback demonstrates a lack of customer focus and an unwillingness to address potential problems, which is ethically questionable and can harm the brand's reputation. A further incorrect approach, which is to focus solely on meeting sales targets without considering the ethical implications of the marketing materials, is a direct abdication of professional responsibility. This prioritizes financial gain over ethical conduct and consumer rights, can lead to a culture of corner cutting, and ultimately result in significant reputational damage and legal consequences if the marketing is found to be misleading or unfair. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a multi-step approach. 1. Identify the ethical dilemma. Recognize the conflict between business objectives and ethical obligations. 2. Gather all relevant information. Understand the full picture, including both positive and negative feedback and the company's objectives. 3. Consult ethical guidelines and regulations. Refer to relevant codes of conduct and legal frameworks governing marketing and consumer protection. 4. Evaluate potential courses of action. Consider the ethical and practical implications of each option. 5. Seek advice if necessary. Discuss the situation with supervisors, legal counsel, or ethics committees. 6. Choose the most ethical and responsible course of action. Prioritize transparency, honesty, and consumer welfare. 7. Document the decision-making process. Maintain a record of the steps taken and the rationale behind the chosen course of action. Question 14. What factors determine the ethicality of recommending a specific product line within a company's portfolio when a consumer's needs could be met by multiple options, including those from external competitors? Option A. The influence of internal sales targets and performance metrics on the decision-making process. Option B. The degree to which the recommendation subtly highlights the advantages of the company's product while downplaying the benefits of competitor offerings. Option C. The potential for the recommended product to generate higher profit margins for the company. Option D. The extent to which the recommendation prioritizes the consumer's specific needs and provides a balanced comparison of all viable options, irrespective of origin. The correct answer is D. The extent to which the recommendation prioritizes the consumer's specific needs and provides a balanced comparison of all viable options, irrespective of origin. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a company's desire to promote its products and the ethical obligation to provide unbiased information to consumers, especially when those consumers are vulnerable or seeking professional advice. The pressure to influence purchasing decisions, even subtly, can compromise the integrity of the advice given. Careful judgment is required to navigate this tension and ensure that consumer interests are prioritized. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it upholds the core ethical principle of putting the client's or consumer's best interests first. This aligns with regulatory frameworks that often mandate transparency, honesty, and the avoidance of conflicts of interest. By disclosing potential benefits and limitations of all relevant products, and by recommending the option that best suits the individual's needs rather than the company's preferred product, the professional demonstrates integrity and builds trust. This approach is consistent with guidelines that emphasize informed consent and consumer protection. An incorrect approach that prioritizes promoting a specific product, even if it's a good product, fails to meet the ethical standard of unbiased advice. This can lead to regulatory scrutiny for misleading advertising or misrepresentation, especially if the recommendation is not demonstrably the best fit for the consumer. Another incorrect approach, which involves downplaying the benefits of competitor products, is ethically unsound as it involves deception and a failure to provide a complete picture. This can also result in regulatory action for unfair competitive practices. A third incorrect approach, which focuses solely on the profit margin of the company's products, directly violates the principle of acting in the consumer's best interest and can be seen as a breach of fiduciary duty or a violation of consumer protection laws designed to prevent exploitation. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with identifying potential conflicts of interest. They must then assess the impact of these conflicts on their ability to provide objective advice. The next step involves prioritizing the consumer's needs and well-being above any company-specific objectives or personal gain. This requires a commitment to transparency, honesty, and the provision of complete and accurate information. If a conflict cannot be managed effectively to ensure unbiased advice, the professional should consider recusing themselves or seeking guidance from a supervisor or ethics committee. Question 15. When evaluating potential process optimization initiatives within EssilorLuxottica's manufacturing operations, which of the following approaches best balances efficiency gains with the imperative to maintain product quality and regulatory compliance? Option A. Conduct a thorough analysis of the existing process, identify key performance indicators, pilot proposed changes in a controlled environment, and gather feedback from quality assurance and regulatory affairs teams before full-scale implementation. Option B. Implement changes that demonstrably reduce production time and material waste, based on initial team brainstorming and immediate feedback from the production floor. Option C. Prioritize the adoption of new technologies that promise significant cost savings, assuming that technological advancement inherently leads to improved quality and compliance. Option D. Focus on streamlining workflows by eliminating any steps that appear redundant or time-consuming, without extensive testing or formal validation, to achieve rapid efficiency improvements. The correct answer is B. Implement changes that demonstrably reduce production time and material waste, based on initial team brainstorming and immediate feedback from the production floor. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing efficiency gains with potential impacts on product quality and regulatory compliance. The pressure to reduce costs and speed up production can inadvertently lead to shortcuts that compromise the integrity of the manufacturing process, which is heavily regulated in the optical industry. Careful judgment is needed to ensure that process optimization initiatives do not violate EssilorLuxottica's internal quality standards or any applicable industry regulations concerning product safety and efficacy. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic, data-driven, and collaborative method for process optimization. This involves thoroughly understanding the existing process, identifying bottlenecks and inefficiencies through objective analysis, and then proposing solutions that are validated through pilot testing and stakeholder consultation. This methodology ensures that changes are well-informed, minimize risk, and are aligned with both business objectives and regulatory requirements. It fosters a culture of continuous improvement while maintaining a strong focus on quality and compliance. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on cost reduction without considering the impact on quality control processes would be professionally unacceptable. This could lead to the introduction of defects or a reduction in the performance of eyewear, potentially violating consumer protection laws and industry standards for product safety and efficacy. Another incorrect approach that bypasses thorough testing and validation of proposed changes, implementing them directly based on assumptions, risks introducing unforeseen issues that could compromise product integrity and lead to regulatory noncompliance or product recalls. A third incorrect approach that fails to involve relevant stakeholders, such as quality assurance and regulatory affairs teams, in the optimization process, overlooks critical expertise and perspectives, increasing the likelihood of overlooking compliance issues or quality degradation. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that begins with a comprehensive understanding of the current process and its objectives. This should be followed by a structured analysis of potential improvements, using data and evidence to support any proposed changes. Collaboration with all relevant departments, including quality, engineering, and regulatory affairs, is crucial. Any proposed optimization should undergo rigorous testing and validation before full implementation, with clear metrics established to monitor its impact on both efficiency and quality. Regular review and adaptation of the optimized process are also essential components of effective process management. Question 16. Market research demonstrates a significant opportunity to reduce manufacturing costs for a key eyewear component by streamlining the assembly line. A proposal suggests accelerating the pace of certain manual assembly steps and reducing the frequency of quality checks at intermediate stages. Which of the following approaches best balances efficiency gains with maintaining product integrity and operational standards? Option A. Conduct a thorough analysis of the current assembly process, identifying specific bottlenecks and inefficiencies. Develop targeted process improvements that maintain or enhance quality control points, and pilot these changes with rigorous testing and data collection before full-scale implementation. Option B. Immediately implement the proposed acceleration of manual assembly steps and reduction in quality checks across all production lines to realize cost savings as quickly as possible. Option C. Implement the proposed changes based on the initial cost-saving projections and address any quality issues that arise after the changes have been fully rolled out. Option D. Focus solely on reducing the time spent on manual assembly and eliminate all intermediate quality checks, assuming that final product inspection will catch any defects. The correct answer is A. Conduct a thorough analysis of the current assembly process, identifying specific bottlenecks and inefficiencies. Develop targeted process improvements that maintain or enhance quality control points, and pilot these changes with rigorous testing and data collection before full-scale implementation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the pursuit of efficiency gains with the imperative to maintain product quality and comply with EssilorLuxottica's established operational standards, which are implicitly governed by industry best practices and potentially specific internal quality control guidelines. The pressure to reduce costs through process optimization must not compromise the integrity of the final product or customer satisfaction. Careful judgment is required to identify optimizations that enhance efficiency without negatively impacting quality or introducing risks. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic, data-driven evaluation of proposed changes. This involves understanding the current process, identifying bottlenecks or inefficiencies, and then proposing and testing solutions that are validated against objective quality metrics and operational impact. This aligns with principles of continuous improvement and responsible operational management, ensuring that any changes are beneficial and sustainable. It also implicitly adheres to any internal quality management systems or industry standards that EssilorLuxottica would be expected to follow to maintain its reputation and market position. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on cost reduction without considering quality implications is professionally unacceptable. This could lead to a decline in product performance, increased customer complaints, and potential reputational damage, which are all significant business risks. Such an approach fails to uphold the professional responsibility to deliver high-quality products and services. Another incorrect approach that involves implementing changes without proper testing or validation is also professionally unsound. This introduces an element of guesswork into process optimization, increasing the likelihood of unintended negative consequences. It bypasses the due diligence necessary to ensure that proposed solutions are effective and do not introduce new problems, violating principles of sound project management and risk mitigation. Finally, an approach that disregards feedback from the production team or quality control personnel is professionally flawed. These individuals possess invaluable on-the-ground knowledge of the existing processes and potential pitfalls of proposed changes. Ignoring their input demonstrates a lack of respect for expertise and can lead to the implementation of impractical or detrimental solutions. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, thoroughly understand the existing process and its performance metrics. Second, identify potential areas for improvement with clear objectives. Third, brainstorm and evaluate potential solutions, considering both efficiency and quality impacts. Fourth, develop a pilot or testing plan to validate proposed changes. Fifth, implement changes incrementally and monitor their impact rigorously. And finally, gather feedback and iterate as necessary. This systematic process ensures that optimization efforts are effective, responsible, and aligned with business objectives and professional standards. Question 17. The audit findings indicate that the current lens manufacturing process for a specific product line is experiencing a higher-than-average rate of minor aesthetic defects, leading to increased rework and material waste. A proposal has been put forward to streamline a particular stage of the polishing process by reducing the number of quality checks performed at that specific point, with the stated aim of increasing throughput and reducing operational costs. Which of the following represents the most professionally responsible approach to addressing these audit findings and the proposed process change? Option A. Immediately implement the proposed reduction in quality checks across all production lines for that product to achieve the projected cost savings and throughput increases, as the audit findings primarily relate to minor aesthetic issues. Option B. Focus solely on increasing the speed of the existing polishing process without altering the number of quality checks, assuming that faster processing will inherently lead to fewer defects due to reduced handling time. Option C. Accept the proposed streamlining of the polishing process as a necessary cost-saving measure and instruct the production team to manage any increase in defects through enhanced final inspection without altering the core process. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive root cause analysis of the aesthetic defects to understand their origin, and then pilot the proposed streamlined polishing process on a limited production run to assess its impact on defect rates, rework, material waste, and overall product quality before considering wider implementation. Correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive root cause analysis of the aesthetic defects to understand their origin, and then pilot the proposed streamlined polishing process on a limited production run to assess its impact on defect rates, rework, material waste, and overall product quality before considering wider implementation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing efficiency gains with potential impacts on product quality and regulatory compliance. The audit findings highlight a deviation from established processes, necessitating a careful evaluation of proposed changes. The core of the challenge lies in ensuring that any process optimization does not inadvertently compromise EssilorLuxottica's commitment to delivering high-quality eyewear and adhering to relevant industry standards and regulations. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough, data-driven evaluation of the proposed process optimization. This involves understanding the current process, identifying the specific inefficiencies, and then rigorously assessing the potential benefits and risks of the proposed changes. Crucially, it includes validating the proposed changes through pilot testing and ensuring that all modifications are documented and aligned with internal quality control procedures and any applicable regulatory requirements. This systematic and cautious methodology minimizes the risk of unintended negative consequences and upholds the company's reputation for quality and compliance. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on cost reduction without a comprehensive impact assessment would be professionally unacceptable. This is because it risks overlooking potential quality degradation, which could lead to increased customer complaints, product recalls, and reputational damage. Furthermore, it could violate internal quality management systems and potentially contravene industry-specific regulations that mandate certain quality control measures or product standards. Another incorrect approach that involves immediate implementation of the proposed changes without adequate testing or validation is also professionally unsound. This haste bypasses critical steps in process improvement, such as identifying unforeseen issues or ensuring the scalability and reliability of the new process. This can lead to operational disruptions, increased error rates, and a failure to achieve the intended efficiency gains, while also potentially introducing non-compliance risks if the new process deviates from established quality or safety protocols. Professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Understand the current state, clearly define the existing process and its performance metrics. 2. Identify the problem/opportunity, pinpoint the specific inefficiencies or areas for improvement. 3. Propose solutions, develop potential process optimizations. 4. Evaluate solutions, conduct a thorough risk-benefit analysis, considering quality, cost, efficiency, and compliance. 5. Pilot and test, implement and validate the chosen solution on a smaller scale. 6. Implement and monitor, roll out the optimized process and continuously track its performance. 7. Document and communicate. Ensure all changes are properly documented and communicated to relevant stakeholders. This framework ensures that process optimization efforts are strategic, well-informed, and aligned with organizational goals and regulatory obligations. Question 18. Risk assessment procedures indicate a potential for significant cost savings by streamlining the lens manufacturing process. However, preliminary analysis suggests that some proposed modifications might reduce the time spent on quality checks at intermediate stages. Which of the following approaches best balances the pursuit of efficiency with the imperative to maintain product quality and regulatory compliance? Option A. Implement the proposed changes immediately to realize cost savings, with a plan to address any quality issues that arise post-implementation. Option B. Conduct a thorough risk assessment of each proposed modification, including pilot testing and validation of the optimized process to ensure it meets all quality and regulatory standards before full rollout. Option C. Prioritize the changes that offer the most substantial cost reductions, assuming that the existing quality control measures at the final stage are sufficient to catch any defects. Option D. Rely on the experience of long-term production staff to identify which modifications are safe to implement without formal testing, focusing on their qualitative feedback. The correct answer is A. Implement the proposed changes immediately to realize cost savings, with a plan to address any quality issues that arise post-implementation. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge in balancing efficiency gains with potential impacts on product quality and regulatory compliance. The pressure to reduce costs through process optimization must be carefully weighed against the risk of compromising the integrity of EssilorLuxottica's eyewear products, which are subject to stringent quality and safety standards. A hasty or poorly considered optimization could lead to product defects, customer dissatisfaction, and regulatory scrutiny. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic and data-driven evaluation of proposed process changes. This includes conducting thorough risk assessments, pilot testing, and validating that the optimized process maintains or improves product quality and meets all relevant regulatory requirements. This aligns with principles of good manufacturing practice and a commitment to product safety and efficacy, which are implicitly expected within the optical industry and by regulatory bodies overseeing product quality. It demonstrates a proactive and responsible approach to change management. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing changes without a comprehensive risk assessment fails to identify potential negative consequences, such as compromised product integrity or non-compliance with manufacturing standards. This is a direct contravention of responsible operational management and could lead to significant quality issues. Adopting a change solely based on cost reduction, without verifying its impact on product quality or regulatory adherence, prioritizes financial gain over consumer safety and product integrity. This approach risks violating implicit ethical obligations to consumers and potentially explicit regulatory requirements for product quality. Making changes based on anecdotal evidence or the opinions of a few individuals, rather than objective data and rigorous testing, introduces a high degree of uncertainty and risk. This subjective approach is not aligned with the scientific and evidence-based methodologies expected in process optimization within a regulated industry. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach process optimization by first understanding the existing process and its critical control points. Any proposed optimization must be subjected to a formal risk assessment to identify potential impacts on quality, safety, and compliance. Following this, pilot studies and validation are essential to confirm the effectiveness and safety of the optimized process before full-scale implementation. Continuous monitoring and review are also crucial to ensure sustained performance and compliance. Question 19. System analysis indicates that EssilorLuxottica is considering implementing an advanced AI-driven system to analyze customer purchasing patterns and personalize marketing efforts. This system will process significant amounts of customer data, including purchase history and demographic information. What is the most responsible and compliant approach for the company to take regarding the implementation of this AI system? Option A. Conduct a thorough data privacy impact assessment. Engage legal and compliance teams to review data handling protocols and establish clear guidelines for AI bias detection and mitigation before full deployment. Option B. Immediately deploy the AI system to gain a competitive advantage, assuming that existing general data protection policies are sufficient. Option C. Prioritize the technological capabilities and potential revenue generation of the AI system, addressing any compliance issues only if they arise. Option D. Delegate the entire responsibility for the AI system's implementation and oversight to the IT department, trusting their technical expertise to manage any potential risks. The correct answer is A. Conduct a thorough data privacy impact assessment, engage legal and compliance teams to review data handling protocols, and establish clear guidelines for AI bias detection and mitigation before full deployment. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a company's desire to leverage new technology for efficiency and the ethical imperative to protect customer data and maintain trust. The rapid pace of technological advancement, coupled with evolving data privacy regulations, necessitates a careful balancing act. Professionals must navigate the potential benefits of AI-driven insights against the risks of data misuse, bias, and non-compliance. The challenge lies in identifying and mitigating these risks proactively, ensuring that innovation does not come at the expense of stakeholder rights and regulatory adherence. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes a comprehensive risk assessment and the establishment of robust data governance frameworks before full-scale implementation. This aligns with the principles of data protection by design and by default, as mandated by many regulatory frameworks. By engaging legal, compliance, and IT security teams, the company demonstrates a commitment to understanding and mitigating potential regulatory breaches and ethical lapses. This proactive stance ensures that the AI implementation adheres to EssilorLuxottica's specific regulatory obligations, such as those pertaining to customer data privacy and fair business practices, thereby safeguarding customer trust and avoiding potential penalties. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves proceeding with AI implementation without a thorough understanding of the data it will process and the potential biases embedded within it. This failure to conduct due diligence on data sources and algorithms can lead to discriminatory outcomes, violating ethical principles and potentially contravening regulations that prohibit unfair or discriminatory business practices. Another incorrect approach is to focus solely on the technological capabilities of the AI without considering the legal and ethical implications of its deployment. This oversight can result in the collection or processing of customer data in ways that are not compliant with privacy laws, leading to data breaches, loss of customer confidence, and significant legal repercussions. A third incorrect approach is to delegate the entire responsibility for AI implementation and oversight to the IT department, without adequate input from legal and compliance functions. This siloed approach risks overlooking critical regulatory requirements and ethical considerations that are outside the typical purview of IT, potentially exposing the company to significant compliance failures. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured decision-making process that begins with identifying all relevant stakeholders and their interests. This is followed by a thorough assessment of the regulatory landscape applicable to EssilorLuxottica's operations. Next, potential risks and benefits associated with the proposed action, AI implementation, should be systematically evaluated. The decision should then be made based on which option best aligns with regulatory requirements, ethical principles, and the long-term interests of the company and its stakeholders, prioritizing a proactive and risk-aware approach. Question 20. Strategic planning requires a keen awareness of potential product lifecycle issues. Imagine you are a product development manager at EssilorLuxottica, and you receive an internal report detailing a potential, albeit unconfirmed, manufacturing defect in a popular eyewear model that could, in rare instances, compromise the structural integrity of the frame over time. The report suggests the issue is minor and may not manifest for several years. If at all, your team is currently under pressure to meet ambitious sales targets for the upcoming quarter. What is the most ethically and professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Inform your immediate superior of the report and await their directive on how to proceed, prioritizing adherence to hierarchical reporting lines over independent action. Option B. Immediately escalate the report to the quality assurance and legal departments for a thorough investigation, and to initiate a proactive product review, regardless of the potential short-term impact on sales targets. Option C. Delay formal reporting of the potential defect to the relevant departments until further internal testing can definitively quantify the risk, to avoid unnecessary alarm and potential disruption to sales. Option D. Dismiss the report as a statistically insignificant anomaly based on the limited data and focus on meeting the current sales targets, assuming the issue will not impact the majority of customers. The correct answer is B. Immediately escalate the report to the quality assurance and legal departments for a thorough investigation and to initiate a proactive product review, regardless of the potential short-term impact on sales targets. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the potential conflict between a company's immediate financial interests and its long-term ethical obligations to stakeholders, particularly concerning product safety and transparency. The pressure to meet quarterly targets can incentivize overlooking or downplaying emerging concerns, creating an ethical dilemma for the employee. The correct approach prioritizes the integrity of EssilorLuxottica's products and the safety of its customers. This aligns with fundamental ethical principles of honesty, responsibility, and the duty of care. From a regulatory perspective, it upholds the spirit and letter of consumer protection laws that mandate the sale of safe and accurately represented products. Proactively reporting and investigating potential safety issues, even if they might impact short-term financial performance, demonstrates a commitment to ethical business conduct and builds long-term trust with consumers and regulators. This approach also mitigates significant legal and reputational risks associated with concealing or mishandling product safety concerns. An incorrect approach that involves delaying the reporting of the potential defect to gather more data without immediate escalation would be ethically flawed. It risks exposing customers to harm and violates the principle of prompt disclosure of material information. This could also be seen as a breach of regulatory requirements that often mandate timely reporting of product safety issues. Another incorrect approach, which is to dismiss the concerns as minor without proper investigation, is professionally negligent. It fails to uphold the duty of care to customers and could lead to significant legal repercussions and reputational damage if the defect proves to be serious. Furthermore, it undermines the company's commitment to quality and safety. A third incorrect approach, which is to report the issue internally but without suggesting concrete actions for investigation or remediation, is insufficient. While it acknowledges the problem, it fails to demonstrate proactive problem-solving and a commitment to resolving the issue, potentially allowing the problem to persist and grow. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with identifying the ethical issue and relevant stakeholders. They should then consult company policies, codes of conduct, and applicable regulations. In situations involving potential product safety concerns, the priority must be the well-being of the customer and the integrity of the product. This involves transparent communication, thorough investigation, and decisive action to rectify any identified issues, even if it presents short-term financial challenges.